Bom dia a todos, good morning, welcome, bem-vinda ao nosso encontro CONECTAA Talks. Hoje estamos de novo juntos com a Nikki Walker. Ela foi convidada do nosso último encontro e falou bastante sobre engajamento. Depois, o feedback e as perguntas adicionais que nós recebemos, estamos com ela novamente. Ela aceitou um outro convite nosso para entrar um pouco mais em engajamento e a questão mais estratégica sobre os modelos de membership e as regras que precisem mudar. Então, primeiramente, welcome, Nikki. I'll continue with the introductions and then I'll hand over to you. Queria novamente agradecer o Global Nexus pela parceria conosco e que ofereceria a tradução. Então, em alguns instantes, iniciaremos em inglês. Se vocês precisem da tradução, na barra de baixo, podem escolher interpretação e o português, e aí vocês podem seguir toda a palestra em português, desculpa. CONECTAA é uma comunidade para gestores e líderes voluntários de associações. A gente sentiu muito essa necessidade dos intercâmbios no Brasil, então a gente está fomentar essa troca aqui junto com vocês e a gente convida vocês a serem parceiros, entrar ativamente, porque a comunidade só tem força quando nos reunimos efetivamente e trocamos. Antes de iniciar, gostaria de perguntar se vocês podem colocar no chat se alguém de vocês que está conosco agora participou na última sessão ou não, porque a gente tratou de algumas temáticas lá, que a Nikki só vai dar uma breve pincelada, porém eles merecem realmente ser revistos. Então, por favor, comentem no chat quem já participou e quem não participou. Virginia, você pode me ajudar a colocar o link onde eles podem acessar a gravação? Perfeito, então vocês podem encontrar no link a gravação da última vez que a gente recomenda acessar. Então, agora eu vou transferir ao inglês. Nikki, welcome again. Thank you for accepting this second invite to speak with us about engagement and WIIFM. I hope you'll explain this to us. The rules of engagement must change. Nikki, VP of Global VP, apologies, of Engagement for Communities and Associations at MCI. Happy to hand over to you and learn with you some more about the strategic elements. Nikki?
Yeah, thanks, Gina, and good morning to you all. Gina, did you tell me how many people had attended the last session? I didn't hear.
I did ask, and so far only answer is not participated. So I believe we have a fully new audience.
Oh, okay.
In the link of last time's session.
Yeah.
And that's, they would need to go in for more details.
Yeah. Okay, so as Gina explained to you when she asked the question, I did go in depth into engagement in the last session, and I'm just going to skim over three of the key points that I discussed last week, which one was a formal definition of engagement. I think a lot of associations are really questioning, what does engagement mean? That was the title of our last session. So we define it at MCI as member and customer engagement is defined by the ongoing interaction between a member or customer and your association in exchange for meaningful value. And it's this emotional connection between the member or customer and your association that's absolutely crucial. That's really what engagement is about. The member is emotionally engaged and active. And a highly engaged member or customer, of course, they'll buy more of your products, they'll promote your association more, and they will be very loyal to the organization. So that's a formal definition of engagement. And one of the things that I was asked to talk about in the last session was, how can you measure engagement? It's such a buzzword, everybody's talking about it. but it's very hard to be tangible and to find out whether your organization, your association is doing well. So we launched a project back in 2016 called the Association Engagement Index, and we're hoping to do more with it again later this year. And we have 3 measurements that allow us to give your association really a score. Some of you may be familiar with the NPS, the Net Promoter Score, and our Association Engagement Index score is similar to that. We measure the relationship strength between your members or customers and your association, and it's seen from them. It's their point of view. It's what they think about you. And we measure how they evaluate the benefits that you offer to them. We evaluate whether they think your association is performing well. Do you deliver on what you promise? Do you deliver good value? Are your products and programs, meetings, virtual meetings, education, etc., are they relevant? Do they help the member? And how much does the member prefer your association over any other association or any other commercial provider of education? And preference and performance are 2 elements that we don't tend to talk very much about in associations. We talk a lot about, oh, we have all these benefits for members, but we need to judge ourselves on whether we deliver those benefits well and whether we're responding to the needs of the members. So our engagement index will give you a score, a relationship strength, which goes from -50 to 150. And I can tell you that one of the average scores, for example, when we first launched this in 2016, with very, very large, strong, global American headquartered associations, but with members and customers all over the world, the highest score was 98. And as you can see, that sits in the moderate score. So no association that we worked to evaluate and provide their engagement score was strong or very strong. So we're reviewing how we're going to work with associations to evaluate with their members this engagement score, because we believe it's very important now, particularly after all these 18 months of virtual engagement, that we can provide a benchmark, an annual benchmark to associations. So the team in Brazil will tell you more about that when we have it available. Then I also mentioned that there are 5 levels of engagement, and we're always very concerned with members, and we assume that all members are engaged and that all members are active and loyal and that they're multipliers. But actually some members are very passive. They do absolutely nothing. They don't engage with your association. They do the only thing they do, which is good for you, is they pay their membership fee. But the more you engage with them, the more you encourage them to explore the depth and breadth of your association, the more active they become, they go up the scale, they become more loyal, and at the ultimate top side of an engaged member. And it can be an engaged customer. They don't have to be members. They can be people that buy your products, that come to your meetings. They can all become multipliers. Being a member is not a necessity to feel loyalty to your association or to act as a multiplier. And every one of these segments, if you have good data, you'll be able to see where your members, where your customers are on this scale. Now, that's a whole discussion. I could talk for 40 minutes. I've been given 30 minutes. So I will leave. This is the section that we did a month ago. And I'm going to move on now to talking a little bit more about the rules of engagement and how they need to change, and how I think engagement and membership models and the changing of membership models all come together in today's world. And this little cartoon here is a Belgian cartoon. Cartoon is called Dilbert. And as you can see on the left, these are company corporate executives, right? They want to ship 1 million units, their goal this quarter. And then one of them says, well, you know, do we have any goals that are actually focused on customers, making the customers happy? And the CEO, boss replies, no. I'm just talking about our goals. We don't care about theirs. And I tend to feel that when we look at our membership model in associations, we're very much putting our goals into that membership benefits package, and we're not very good at thinking about who our customers are, who our potential members are, and our members and what they want. And in today's world, which is very transactional, it's very used to getting customized, personalized, it's data-driven, it's AI-driven. People really want to be able to choose. And that's something you need to bear in mind in your membership model. So as Gina said, I'm talking about this acronym, WIIFM. If any of you attended last session, you would maybe remember what it means. Does anybody know this expression? If you do know it, would you like to put something in the chat? Anybody heard of it at all? And in fact, I'm probably going, in the interest of time, to tell you so I can move on, and I'll let the team look at the chat. So what's in it for me? This is all about your member, and engagement and membership models need to consider those members, those customers. So what do you see in this picture? And again, if we had a little bit more time, I would ask you to put in the chat, but most of you would probably say, well, it's obvious, Nikki, it's a box. What else do you expect us to see? It's a box, it's a package. And for me, this is the visual representation of how for years and years and years in associations, we have been putting together our membership package. It's a box. We offer people 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 benefits for this price. Take it or leave it. If you want to engage with my association, I'm telling you what you will get and how much you're going to pay. No choice. Whereas you look at how large brands have evolved over the last few years and how personalized and how customized they enable their customers to choose and adapt their products and to find their own way in. Here's an example from Nike, how you can design your shoe with your own colors and, you know, make it very much mine, what I want, my preference. And the interesting thing about this slide, if you look here, ordinary standard shoe, $649, whichever currency I was in when I pulled this down. And if you customize it, it's more expensive. Of course it is, because it's what you want. You're getting what is relevant to you. So they charge more for their customized shoe. And we really need, in the way we're looking at membership models and the way we're asking people to engage with us in our associations, to consider their needs, to consider particularly the younger generation. They've been online all their life. They're so used to finding what they want, where they want, how they want it. My time, my choice, my place, Netflix, Amazon, it doesn't matter who, everybody is allowing them to engage their way. We need to learn from these corporate brands and be much more conscious of offering different channels to engage with our association. Choice, customization, and a personal way that I can choose according to my needs. So basically, one size doesn't fit all. And very important to remember that it's not us that defines value. It's not the organization, the association that defines value. It is the customer. It's your member. So we need to take them in mind. Now,
Nikki?
Yes, Gina.
Just taking this opportunity, as you were speaking about adapting, I was thinking of the Olympics, where we have all the new sports. Is that something similar that you would see as the shoes that you explained? And just taking, before you answer, the opportunity to ask you if you could speak a little bit slower when you continue.
So sorry to the translators. I will try to be a little slower. So yes, the Olympics have catered for many different customer segments. There's Paralympics for those who are, you know, handicapped. There's the different diversity that they've brought in, and that's really what I'm talking about, is thinking of our associations. This is what I advocate for, to think of our association as an open community rather than a closed membership organization. And typically we only think about our members, and therefore we tend to forget everybody else. But if you look at your data, and data is the beginning of all this, data is crucial in the world we operate in today. Most of us in our associations, we focus on the two inner circles, the volunteer leaders and the members. We only think about the members. But a lot of associations all around the world have more customers than they have members. They have more people attending their annual meeting, and particularly now that everything is virtual, more participants in virtual meetings, in virtual online experiences than they have members. One of my European Association clients has 2,000 members and has, up until recently, 14,000 face-to-face participants in their meeting and 21,000 joining online. Now they all sit in the next circle out. They're your customers. And by the way, there's a whole load of people that are interested in your organization, interested in your offerings. They're your prospects. You're trying to communicate to them through social media, through inviting them to join meetings. They might be more of a younger generation, but these are people who are watching you and they're listening to you. They may never want to become a member, but they do want to engage with you. They do want to benefit from your programs and your products. So my message, I advocate for thinking more about your association as an open community that embraces all of those who are members as well as all of your customers, and is very conscious of who you are trying to reach and engage with and bring into your community. So another element of considering that big circle, the community, rather than the smaller section of members, is all of us are involved with advocacy in some way, in trying to change the thinking of people, bring better patient care, advocate for certain treatments, advocate for with governments to change legislation. Whatever it is that we do, an association is very much about the power of many. And what makes you stronger is that community. The larger number of people, you have more influence and much more stature to convey messages if you think about the larger circle rather than the smaller one. So if you're considering about engagement and looking at membership models, ask yourself, you know, what do you want to be? How do you want to communicate your power, your influence, your value? You know, do you only want to be talking about the fact that you're an association of 1,000 members, or do you want to talk about you're a community of 5,000 members? You bring together all your stakeholders. You have much more power, much more voice, much more influence if you think about the community. And then people say to me, okay, Nikki, that's fine, but how do we do it? You know, what are you actually saying here? So I'm talking about allowing people to choose how they enter and join your community. It's what I call the multiple entry points, multiple ways that I can engage with you. You're offering a choice. Now, here I just put some categories that might help stimulate your thinking. This is not a shopping list. It's not saying it's the only way of doing it. But for example, you might have 1,000 members now. Consider them your VIPs. They are your very, very, very important people, and they're not going to go away. I'll come back to that later. Think about all those people attending your virtual meetings right now, all those participants. Why don't you welcome them into your community as a participant member? It's not going to cost you anything, and you haven't given anything away. You're simply recognizing them as a member of your community. You're not asking them to transact other than transact to attend your meetings. You can have an a la carte membership. You can allow your members to say, okay, these are the benefits that I want, and technology will give them a price. You could attract members like this. You can have members that join your community because they want to subscribe to a training program that you do. They're going to pay for the training program, but you're going to welcome them as a training member. They have none of the benefits of the VIP member. And so it goes on, whether it's special interest groups or a digital member that can only access digital products, or one of the very popular things a lot of associations do is they ask people to subscribe to read their newsletter. Why don't you call that person a corresponding member? Consider them a member of your community. They're not paying you anything, and you're not giving them anything other than your newsletter, which you're giving to them already free of charge. But you're building your community, and you are deciding they are important people with whom you want to engage, and you want them to engage with you. That's why a choice is very important when we talk about engagement, when we talk about relationship strength, when we talk about emotional commitment. If I feel I'm able to move in your community the way I want to, I will get so much benefit from it. And in the end, I will advocate to others. So that's a little bit of the theory. I also wanted to share with you just some examples of how a couple of European and American associations have approached this topic. So this is a European association that recently launched its Community 365. 365 meaning 365 days of the year. It's a different model. Instead of expecting people to pay, membership fees, they're basically welcoming people into their community, which, by the way, is heavily funded by sponsorship. And the CEO's view is it's all about being relevant. It's not about being a conference organizer, and if you're relevant, the revenues will come to you, but they'll come to you in a different way. So it's not just the membership model that says you must pay me $150 to get my box. So that's one of the examples from a European association. Then a medical association in the United States has just recently, it's a long-standing client of ours that we've been working with for a while, but their new approach to membership, as you can see here on their webpage, they call themselves a global, inclusive community. This is under when you talk about membership. It says, join our community. We're a global, inclusive community. And they've chosen to launch 2 new engagement models, membership, whatever you want to call it. One is for those who just wish to be informed, and the others who want to be engaged. The informed membership package, of course, is cheaper than the engaged one. The informed member can't vote, can't become a leader, a volunteer leader, a leader of a committee, or eventually a board member. They don't have those authorities or positions of responsibility, but they don't want it. They just want to be informed and to be part of the bigger community so that they can buy education, attend meetings on their choice, but they pay to be part of that informed community. And my final example is just to put that journey from 1,000 to 5,000 into a very practical example of a large individual member organization, not in healthcare, in professional services. They have, in the inner two circles, approximately 300,000 members. They have about 500,000 credential holders or certified holders of their certification program, who are not necessarily members, they're customers. They're paying a lot of money to become certified and trained by this association. And they have, in reality, approximately 200,000 people who are only members of their online content community. So altogether, they have a community of about 1 million professionals that they represent, they influence. These are 1 million advocates of the brand. These are 1 million, not all of them are as loyal, but the prospects in the community platform are as engaged as the volunteer leaders, because they chose that they wanted this type of engagement. They wanted to be online, they wanted to learn, they wanted to interact. They didn't want the responsibility of leadership or influencing the decisions of the association. So I ask you to think a little bit about your evolving membership models as a means to becoming a more engaging and more open, welcoming organization that really focuses on your member, your customer, your prospect, and what they are looking at, what they want to get from your organization, and allowing them to have that choice. So those are really the key elements of our session today, and just want to come back to a question I'm always asked when I talk this way, and I challenge associations to think differently. Yeah, but what do we do with, you know, our existing members? And isn't your idea going to stop the whole idea of membership in the first place? And I said, no, because these, as I said at the beginning, these are your very important members. They are the ones who are passionate about your organization. They want to be involved in committees and guidelines and developing the cause. They want to have the right to vote, the right to vote. They want to be able to influence how the association evolves. They want to be a stakeholder, an owner of the association, and have the chance to vote at the annual meeting. These people will not go away. Lots of people will still want this. I'm saying let them come in at multiple touch points in that outer ring. Let them find out who you are. Let them engage with your products and programs. And eventually they will also share that passion and want to get more involved. And they will take the VVIP membership package, which is your full membership package. So it's a way of thinking of different ways to bring them in. And I mentioned earlier, I talked a little bit about the Netflix subscription model, or for example, Amazon. So Amazon's entry point is free for everybody. You join Amazon and you can order whatever you want. But if you want a better service or a quicker service or a more customized one that pushes products towards you based on your preferences, you become an Amazon Prime member and you pay, not much, but a little bit for that. And then you buy more. So the commercial model, companies use the model of upselling. We, for years, have said, start at this price. Come in, you can only pay this price. We don't upsell. We make the price a burden or a barrier to entry for some people. So better to upsell, bring them on your journey, bring them up that 5-step of engagement that I showed to get those advocates. Allow them to come in, and upsell and let them feel and join and be engaged. And you are engaging with them. So Gina, you asked me to do this as fast as I could in 30 minutes. I hope I haven't spoken so fast that I've confused everybody. So I'm going to hand it back to you now, and you will decide if we have time for Q&A and what we want to ask before we close this session.
Thank you so much, Nikki, for your presentation. I think it was excellent, very clear, not too fast, very complete on the different elements. You actually spoke in 25 minutes, so this was amazing, and we do have some time for questions. So I received some individually and have prepared some myself as well. So before we end up, we would like to take the time. So at the end, you spoke about influencing the stakeholders. And if you could just maintain your slide, we're still seeing your screen.
Which one do you want to see?
About the influencers, the stakeholders, basically the growth that you showed from members. Sure, that's fine.
Okay.
So specifically, I wanted to ask, in this one, you showed that they had a growth of more or less 200 or more %. So I think the numbers always speak very loud and show impact. Are these numbers representative of what you've seen in other organizations or what organizations have experienced? So what can an association that says, okay, we want to grow our sphere of influence, will not focus only on our members, we'll go to customers, the whole community. What kind of an impact and growth can they expect?
Well, you know, the very first place to start is looking at your data, because a lot of associations do have data on this customer ring, this customer segment, but they ignore it, or they know of participants that have joined meetings, but they ignore them. So if you start with your data, I mentioned the European Association with 2,000 members, 14,000 physical participants and 21,000 at the virtual meeting. If they focus on those 21,000 that have just attended their virtual meeting and engage with them, solicit them, show them different ways into the association, explain value, take care of them, engage with them, they can go from 2,000 to 21,000, but it needs a strategy. It needs a deliberate focus. And very often we make a distinction, a member and a non-member. And associations say, oh, non-members, okay, you know, no, we're only focused on our members. We serve our members. Yes, because they're the ones that vote and they're the ones that have the right to influence, but you also serve your community. So it's an endless opportunity to be able to grow.
Thanks. And Nikki, you just said, you know, the strategy, engagement as a strategy. I think that was one of the key takeaways probably from your session, that it's not just a fashionable word, but it's really part of the strategy. So going back to Dilbert and the cartoon that you shared, there's still a lot of organizations that do only think of their goals. You mentioned data as well. So again, can you recommend how to get the board on board, the board volunteers on board, if you want to set out to develop this strategy and actually make this change, of course, because it seems quite simple, but it's very impactful. An impactful change for many organizations.
So we touched on this a little bit in the last session. One of the hurdles we face working with our board members is that, I'll be a little bit general here, often the board members are fairly senior in age. They're kind of my age plus. And they don't necessarily see the need for change or understand necessarily how the 20-year-olds are wanting to engage. And they're a little bit loyal to, you know, this was okay for me. You know, I was a member, I became a volunteer leader, you know, it was good for me. So why is it not good for everyone else? So they're a bit protective about their own experience. So I believe the best way to drive change is to have engage task force, ask for volunteers on just a task, a few weeks of their time to look at these kind of strategies, particularly younger members and customers, people who have attended your meetings who are not members. Bring in people from your community, go back to the data, invite them in, engage with them to help you with that strategy, because the voice of the customer, the voice of your target audience, your stakeholders, is more powerful than us or even our boards, because these are the ones that we're trying to appeal to. So it's very important to, in any strategic development, to get the view and the voice, do surveys, online surveys, with not just the members, with the customers, with everybody in your database. You know, do voice of customer telephone interviews, find out what people want. As you said, Gina, it is a strategy. It doesn't happen in 5 minutes.
Thanks. You touch again on the data. Can you share a bit more on that? Because although it seems a different topic, it's completely intertwined, right? How we get the right data from our membership, from our community. Can you give any recommendations in that sense, in periodicity and what kind of approaches to take in that sense, especially for those that have never done it, or maybe once in every 5 years?
Well, we have a gift in the world we live in today, that so many of our community, our stakeholders, are engaging with us in a virtual way. Virtual meetings, virtual webinars like this one, virtual sessions, online, you know, on demand. Anything virtual, it's very easy to capture data. You just don't let people access something until they give you the data. You want their demographics, you want to know about them, you want their learning preferences, the topics that are of interest to them. So meeting registration shouldn't be just about attending the meeting. It should also ask for these demographics. You know, if somebody's going to go and download an on-demand webinar, capture the data. That's the power of virtual and the power of digital. It instantly gives you data. In the face-to-face meetings, we were often very lazy about capturing data, and particularly in the medical association meetings, we often had a problem because we had large groups of doctors being sponsored by pharma, for example, by the pharmaceutical industry, and we didn't get the data, we didn't get the names. Well, now, if they're going online, they have to register, the individual has to register. So use what we've been forced to have to do. It's a gift. What we're living now is actually a gift for our transformation. So capturing that data, and it is also about technology. Providing choice needs a technology engine that will allow you to help the members make their choice, and of course be able to control their level of access. Because remember, I am not saying that any of these people in the customer ring or the prospect ring or the outer ring are getting the benefits that members are getting. They're not getting access to what is costing a member $150. They're getting access to something else. So technology must control their access points.
Right, and Nikki, in the region, typically finances are a key challenge. So I imagine that one of the key questions that board members will ask, so what is the cost of this engagement? And maybe you can touch on cost of engagement versus sustainability of an association.
Whoa, Gina, that's a big question right at the end of a session. Well, of course, you know, cost is always talked about, but go back to that slide with, you know, the 365 engagement and the CEO from European Medical Association. He's basically saying you get the revenues in a different way. Having an online community is a very good way of engaging with your sponsors, your industry partners, 365 days of the year. Instead of just giving them exposure for 2 days in a typical meeting environment, you're going to give them exposure 365 days of the year. They will treat that as gold dust, particularly if you give them data, and they are able to engage with your community 365 days of the year. So finances, you know, sustainability, don't think of it as a cost, think of it as a revenue strategy. It's a different way to engage and bring revenues in. Sometimes the member will pay, sometimes an industry sponsor partner will pay, but it's all about how you grow your revenues and not what it's going to cost you, and not thinking about the revenue model.
Thank you so much, Nikki. It was a big question, but you gave us a lot of gold dust, as you called it. So with that, I'd like to thank you very much and ask if we could maybe go back to the final slides to share with those participating online or accessing afterwards. Perfect. So here in this slide, we summarize some of the common challenges, strategies that associations are challenged with. And as you can see, engagement is one of these, which we touched on today and the last session. So the others will be brought to the forefront in the following sessions. So we could move to the next slide. You can contact us. We have here the details of Virginia if you would like to have a copy of the white paper on Customer is the New Member. We'd be happy to share that directly with you. And on the next slide, we will share already with you the topic and the details of our next session, which will be held on the 16th of September. We are highlighting the APHH. They did an excellent job during the pandemic in sharing best practices and showing their growth by highlighting the opportunities rather than challenges. So this will be a very interesting discussion with both one of their board members as well as their association manager. And then to the final slide, I'd like to thank Global Nexus again for their partnership on translating and making this possible. Thank you to the whole team. And finally, just highlighting again the organization by CONECTAA Associações as well as MCI. We look forward to engage with you throughout the days and also to connect with you again on the 16th of September. Thank you, Nikki, and thank you everyone for participating.